I'm sitting with my friend and housemate and PhD in physics, Dr. Yannick Zimmerman, and we have conversations about AI all the time, and we decided just to turn the camera on for this one. And particularly in this video, we would like to teach you how to think with AI and how to leverage AI to get ahead in life, to think 10 times faster, 10 times clearer, and effectively be 10 times more efficient, and how to actually use ChatGPT or other AIs so you're not just getting generic responses that everyone else is getting and you're actually getting a co-pilot for life. So Yannick, welcome. Let's do it.
Nice, let's try to do it, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to go on both our YouTube channels, by the way. So you'll find Yannick's YouTube channel somewhere in the comments, and you can go and find him as well if you're watching on my channel. Do you want to give a little bit of an intro, just your background into technology, AI, all these things, because you're quite the wizard when it comes to technology.
Sure, so I started programming when I was 15. I wanted to hack my teachers back in school then and kind of just kept going since then. Studied physics, and now I'm doing web development and AI product development. And I don't know, I just went down the rabbit hole the last couple of weeks, just reading all the AI insights and news and kind of the cutting edge stuff. And then I think originally my friend Kevin, or our friend Kevin, made me aware of that whole use AI more to think and reason through stuff. Plus the Signal Substack that I sent you that I really enjoyed. And I don't know, I had some really good uses for that whole second brain model of AI for like my quitting my job, starting my own business, and then negotiating some business deals around the quitting of my job.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start, because for a lot of people, they maybe haven't thought about AI in terms of reasoning and having this external brain. I certainly hadn't until you kind of showed me the stuff that you were doing. You gave me some really cool prompts as well. This is not going to be a video about prompts, but you did give me some really great prompts to put into my ChatGPT to actually get it thinking through the lens of leverage. And there's a funny story I'll share in a little while on that about a salad. But what do you think is the biggest mistake or mistakes that most people are making when they're using AI? What are people getting wrong where they're not getting the maximum value or the maximum efficiency or leverage out of the technology?
Good question. I mean, in part we're still using ChatGPT like it's the version of it that came out 2 years ago, where, you know, it's like a small model, knows some stuff, but it can handle that much context and information, and we just kind of put our questions into it. And we are missing the fact that now we can basically dump all of our lives, all of our goals and kind of context, how we grew up as a child, what we're currently working on, what we're reading, what ideas we're consuming. You can just dump all of that into it, and then with that background knowledge start asking it questions or discussing things, figuring out our strategy that we want to move into, all of that. So really adding more context to your discussions with AI.
Yeah, and people are using it like Google, right? So they're going in and just asking simple questions like, give me the three best exercises for this, or tell me how to make more money in my job. But they're not giving the context to the skills that they have or the experience that they have or anything that's needed in the decision-making process.
Let me pick that up, and another way of thinking about that is, you know, you have your whole working process, and then often you have like outputs. You know, for example, you write videos or Instagram posts, and then a lot of people use AI to help them write the post or help them write an email, so kind of for the outputs of their actual working process. But what you can use it, or what I was using it more and more now for, is using it on the input side. Like before I actually got started working on things, I'm using it to figure out what do I want to use it for, what should I be working on, what's kind of the direction I want to move into.
Yeah, that's the most important question too. People, I think, just work blindly, and a lot of the time when I work with people, they're just doing stuff, but they don't answer that question, what should I be working on?
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me as well, with AI recently, it's been really helpful in just identifying, okay, what is the high leverage task that I should be doing? What is the thing that I should be doing more of, less of? What should have my attention right now before I start work. So I'm not just doing, but I'm doing the right thing as well.
Yeah, exactly that. Like using it on the input side and not just on the output side.
Okay, yeah. For someone who wants to start using it on the input side, what does that even mean? Okay, so let's take somebody who's in the online space, right? Some sort of online business owner, creator, consultant, maybe somebody who's running some sort of an agency. What do they need on the input side from a business standpoint? And then what about somebody who's just a normal person who wants to think better and maybe use it for managing their emotions and their relationships and replacing their therapist and their to-do list and all of these things? Like, what does that actually look like in terms of input for those people?
Okay, so I can talk about 2 examples that I was using it for. Let's start with the therapy stuff. What I literally did is I just took my journal entries from the last, 2-3 years, just copied it all, pasted it in, and then just ask it for what kind of recurring patterns can you see in here? What am I always struggling with? What is an angle to look at the whole or my issues that I haven't really considered before? And just telling it to reflect a little bit and then also open up new perspectives, or write yourself imagine you myself from in 10 years future time, and you're going to write a letter back to myself now. What would that letter look like? These sort of things. And then secondly, for the business stuff, so what I was using it for is I wasn't like a decision where, or I had to make a decision where, do I want to stay with my old company? Do I want to start another project? Do I want to become self-employed, start my own business? And I had to think through all the options that I had, and I actually use it to generate a few options, kind of look at my current possibilities, the things that I could be doing. And then when I wanted to evaluate them to figure out what is the best one, which one is most aligned with my goals, I could use it to spin up like stories or potential paths how these different options can unfold. So it can, simulate me 10 or 3 different outcomes for this option. If I pursue that, what could happen? What would be the timeline? If I start my own business, how likely is it going to be that I'm going to end up with 5K a month, 10K a month, 100K a month? What do I have to do to achieve these different outcomes? So really using it as some kind of simulator and like kind of a way to play through the world and different outcomes.
Something that's really interesting and also quite funny. So when you sat down with me and you took my ChatGPT thread and you gave it some prompts, just some guidelines on how to think. So if you're a business owner, you're probably familiar with the concept of leverage, which is really, you put in one input and you hope to maximize the outputs from the one input. And I think with ChatGPT, right, that is a form of leverage, which we kind of just talked about, or with AI in general, you can use it for the input and maximize the output by, optimizing the strategy and the path and the things that you do. So you put in a few guidelines and definitions into my ChatGPT around how to think, and one of them was to think through the lens of leverage. And we gave it a definition for that. It was like use Naval's definition, I think Hormozi's definition. There was a few like thought leaders who have definitions of leverage, and we gave it that context. And now every time when I ask it to, even something that's not related to business, it gives me the answer through the lens of leverage, which means that every time I make a decision using AI, getting it to help me to make the decision, it's presenting me with the most leveraged option, which over the course of your life, if you're always making more leveraged decisions, it leads to better outcomes. And something really funny is that I had only a few ingredients in the fridge. I had a pear, I had some goat's cheese, I had some jam, and I put these 3 ingredients into ChatGPT and said, can you come up with a recipe using these ingredients, because I don't have much in my house. And it came back with a high leverage salad recipe. And it broke, I showed you this, it broke down each component of the dish. It was like very efficient in terms of time, it's ready fast, It scales very easily, so if you want to make a big portion, it's very easy to scale. It also is cost efficient in terms of ingredients. And it's funny, but it also, that small thing, it could have spat out a 45-minute recipe. It gave me something that was ready in 10 minutes that was easy to serve to a lot of people. That's not the true power or the value of it, of course, but it's just interesting to see that it really takes those things into consideration. If you give it the parameters to think through, it really does actually think through those parameters. So if somebody is trying to achieve something and they want to make decisions that lead to that outcome, if they give the context of this is what I want to achieve, can you help me to make decisions that align me with this outcome? And they constantly refer to ChatGPT and give it context, or I keep saying ChatGPT, it's not just ChatGPT, it can be any of the large language models, it's just the one I use. That's going to allow them to essentially get closer to their outcome.
Yes, and in your example with the salad, I actually love the fact that it mentioned that it's gonna look good and is like good content for Instagram.
I forgot that too.
That was one of the points where I was like, yeah, that's actually true and helpful. And if you start, if you really want to push and you start optimizing every single of your meals so that you get some kind of content out of it, it's not gonna be much, but then if you do that for 5 years, it's gonna compound, right?
Mm.
So I'm not sure, what was the question?
So if someone is trying to optimize for an outcome, so they're trying to optimize for a job or a business or maybe even just like self-developing themselves, if they give the context of what they want, and if they take, for example, someone who has been in their position. So let's take Michael Jordan, the basketballer, right? Like one of the greatest sports stars of all time. If you were a young and aspiring basketball player or athlete in any form and you went to ChatGPT and said, I want to be the best, I am fully committed, can you help me think through my life decisions like I was Michael Jordan? Then ChatGPT is going to give you the type of decisions Michael Jordan would make and help that person to actually have the highest chance of succeeding in their professional career. Not that you would want to make every decision in your life through that lens, but for some people they might. Like for me, it's amazing. All of my decisions are going through the brain of Naval Ravikant because the brain of Naval Ravikant is out on the internet through his podcast, his writings, his book. You can essentially tap into his knowledge and wisdom by telling ChatGPT to access all of that data and then make decisions like he would. Yeah. And it's like you're unlocking wisdom that I don't have his wisdom. There's no way I can have his wisdom. It will take me a lifetime to get remotely close. In a lifetime, I probably wouldn't even get to like a tenth of his wisdom because he's an absolute machine. But with a few prompts and the right way of asking questions and thinking about it, I can get decisions made with his wisdom in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Let me actually try to put it into like a little cookbook. I think the perspective here that's really helpful is to think of AI, ChatGPT and so on as some kind of simulator. It's really good at simulating texts and stories and characters in particular. So if you wanted to help you, first step, pick some kind of character that you want to simulate. Michael Jordan, Naval. You could also go a bit more abstract, let's say a CEO of a big company. Some kind of character that's very clearly defined in our collective knowledge. Go to the internet and you can get a sense for what Naval is like, whereas you pick your neighbor and the internet doesn't really know who your neighbor is, right?
Sure.
So you pick someone who's clearly defined, then you give it as much context about your life as possible. Just dump in all the shit. Your current situation, what you're working on, what you know, what knowledge you have, your routine, your habits, your friends, what they are doing. Because ultimately, if ChatGPT knows what your friends are doing, it can kind of help you talk with them or ask them for help. What goals you're having, everything. And we can link to Kevin's post. He's gonna on Substack, where he actually goes through like a little process to kind of just flesh it out and kind of get that context on paper so you can put it into ChatGPT. And then as soon as you have these two ingredients, you start conversing with it. You just have a conversation, asking good questions, and then the simulation of the character is going to help you looking at your current life situation and bringing them together and figuring out what are the good things to do.
Yeah, and you can have different threads on each of these things, right?
Yeah, and different characters. Like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe Michael Jordan's going to help you play basketball, but then your girlfriend comes and you, I don't know, to use someone else.
Yeah, you maybe don't want the Michael Jordan frame of reference for your
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, and this is something I found really cool. Like, I have recently put multiple different threads into ChatGPT, where some of the threads are very business focused, and then others are just like my journaling. One thing that I actually started the other day as well, which I thought was really cool, was a health thread, where, like, I'm 30 and a half now, and throughout my years I have a ton of injuries. I've been sick a bunch of times, I've been to the doctor a bunch of times, I've been to the hospital a bunch of times, and I don't really have any data or any hard data or any real memory of any of those. Like, I remember, that time I went to the hospital, but I don't remember what medicine I was given. I don't remember what doctor I worked with. Like, I don't remember any of that context.
Yeah.
So, like, my entire medical history is basically non-existent, right? Like, I'm sure I could spend hours of my time and go back to every single doctor I've ever had a conversation with and, like, you know, get all that context, but it's pretty much gone. However, with a ChatGPT thread, if I keep that thread there and just every time I have some small health issue or I have an injury or I have like something really small and simple, and I just drop it in there and document it, I can actually build a full history of my health somewhere where it is all condensed. And it's not necessarily like, because people are like, don't use ChatGPT to diagnose your illness. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, if you just continuously update ChatGPT and keep it as like a running, like almost a running summary of what's going on in your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your career, your relationships, any areas that you're trying to improve or you want to just have data on, it's incredible because it's non-biased, it's non-emotional, and if you give it enough information, it can start to give you the patterns, the themes. Oh, you felt good after this. You don't feel good after this. This seems to trigger you. This seems to be something that makes you feel alive and fulfilled and like you have enjoyment. And I think you can just start to understand yourself and then see these patterns where we're just super bad at understanding ourselves. Like, we're very emotional, we're very biased, and ChatGPT is just not at all those things. He's just like, this is the information, this is the context, this is what I see, this is the data. And the more data you give, the better the context becomes and the better the, I guess, suggestions or the overview of what's going on in your life becomes. And it becomes this like external brain where you can park all of this information, access all of this information all of the time, and you can actually make way better decisions and you can just have more context on what's going on in your life.
Yeah, and you can tell it to kind of pick holes in your reasoning or your habits or all of that. And you could also, when you go to the doctor and, you know, he has some idea or hunch, but then you just give it your phone and like, here, chat with my ChatGPT, and then they can talk, you know, business, like they can talk in medical terms and then have like a really good connection too.
Yeah.
Because it understands you, but it also understands the doctor's perspective.
Yeah, it's like this middleman, right? Because we don't have the doctor's perspective.
Yeah, and
at least not the medical.
So, like that thing 2 years ago, what was the diagnosis there, and can I just talk through all the details and so on. Another thing that I kind of very connected to that I like using it for is like asking it to take a topic that you're discussing right now and just zoom out and ask like, am I overlooking something? Like, or for example, I was in this negotiation, right, and kind of over text I used a lot of ChatGPT or actually Gemini Pro, which I found was way better for negotiations. And every now and then I just step back and ask like, okay, what am I overlooking? What are the assumptions that we are making that we didn't really state explicitly? But can you just spell them out so that we can look at the assumptions and then ask ourselves, are these actually true? Like, I think that person wants this, but maybe it's not true. Maybe I should revise that and kind of think about a few other ideas. And then I asked it, my negotiation partner, like, okay, what do we think does he want? Like, what are his motives? Like, does he want the money? Does he want to feel like he's in control? Does he think about his reputation? All these sorts of things.
Yeah, I use it as well for reasoning. So the new model 03 is 03?
03.
03 is for reasoning, which I only just recently started using, but I used it for negotiating kind of like a collaboration partnership. I actually used it for 3 different collaboration partnerships. One was with 03 and the other 2 were with GPT-4, 4.0. It's so confusing, all the models. But if you want a really cool reasoning model, check 03. For using it with 03, it was so in depth, right? So it was me basically coming up with a partnership agreement with somebody who I part mentor in exchange for services that he provides, and I felt like I'm actually providing more value here. The value exchange is not fair, and we need to renegotiate this deal. So I went to ChatGPT, I went to 03, I gave all of the information, and then 03 went and like searched the web, searched Upwork, searched these different platforms to see what was the going rate for the service that I was bartering with this guy, came back, gave me the going rates, then figured out what the value was that I wanted, kind of put numbers to everything, and then came back, and it made me realize, okay, in order for me to continue with this agreement, the performance is currently here for this person, and the performance has to be here, right? It has to be at least level, or ideally even where I feel like I'm getting a better deal. And then it gave me a load of ideas for like incentives of, okay, how to structure this in a way, because it was quite complex, because there is some conflict of interest as well in the deal. So it was a little bit complex, but it was so easy to think through every angle, because it was like, is there blind spots? And it automatically actually gives the blind spots of, here's something you might not have thought of. Here's something where you could get stuck.
We wrote that into your system prompt, that's why.
Okay, so that's, and by the way, if you want a really powerful system prompt, just reply to us somewhere after this video, send the word prompt, and we can do that, because I think that's actually something to talk about. The system prompt is probably one of the most important parts, right, of the whole system to work.
So the system prompt sets the just kind of default behavior that's always in the background. And I actually experienced a big kind of performance increase. Like, it felt more useful after I adjusted the system prompt to, for example, incorporate the whole Naval thing, like think in terms of leverage a lot, plus the whole point out blind spots, like be my thinking partner. Don't just, just tell me what I want to hear, like actually help me level up and think better. So I guess that was also really useful for your deal there. Like, what happened then? Like, you structured the deal, or like a suggestion, and then you presented it to the guy? Or?
Yeah, and it was really good. He was all over it. It was like a really good deal for both parties.
Okay.
But I noticed the same thing. Like, I've used ChatGPT for a long time. I mean, a long time. I've used it consistently for the last year or so. But in the last month, which I guess is when we updated the system prompt, dude, the performance just went from, it's like a completely different machine with the system prompt. It's way
better.
Yeah, before it was just like, okay, Google search that kind of can give me more answers faster. But now it's like you said, it's a thinking partner. It's like, I have this external brain, I have this really wise, really smart, really fast thinker who's going to push me on my bullshit, and who's going to just provide different perspectives and context. And I mean, even just in terms of, setting up something online, right? That's not necessarily decision making, but it's just give me a step-by-step framework to solve this problem. And even with the thinking side of things, it's like, how can I think through this problem? How can I be a better thinker? How can I make the right decision? How can I optimize for whatever it is that I want to optimize for? That system prompt just changed the machine entirely.
Again, you remember the simulation thing, right? You just need to kind of push it into into simulating the right kind of of thing, object, partner, conversation partner. And then as soon as you do that, you can actually get way more out of it. But again, it's it's this old problem of it doesn't know, it can't read your mind. It can take a lot of context and kind of intention into account, but you need to give it a little bit of information.
Amazing. I think that's it for now on the thinking. Is there anything you want to add or wrap up with?
Maybe one thing. If you have the money, spend the $20, $23, whatever, for the monthly membership, because it's going to be a much better product. They just improved the whole thing so much over the last 2 years. And the free model versus the paid model, it's quite big of a difference.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree, because that was the other difference that I made. The paid membership for ChatGPT and the system prompt, and it is a different machine. So that's it. If you want that prompt as well, feel free to reach out to Yannick or I on any platform. Just send the word prompt and we'll send over a system prompt so you can build an external brain and start thinking 10 times clearer, 10 times faster, and being 10 times more efficient. Boom. Oh.